Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Bezel and the Big Picture. I am your host, Scott Byrne, and I am really looking forward to today's episode because today I have a Nodus Sector II field watch. This was a loaner from the team at Nodus, so a big thank you and shout out to Wes and Jake who sent this over to me. I'm so excited to talk about this one because I've really enjoyed wearing it and I'm looking forward to diving into why and what I like about it. But first off, how delightful is that shade of blue? I think it's fantastic. I've paired this one with the film 127 Hours, and that may seem like a curious pairing, but when I get into why, I hope you see the connection the way I do. So let's just dive in, talk about the watch, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts afterwards on what you guys think. All right, let's jump in. So I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed wearing this watch. It was a real pleasure. And part of that is because of the strap, which is known as Tech Tough, and it's a hybrid rubber. And part of it is the really great design they did on the lugs themselves. They have an excellent curvature on them, and they just fit pretty flawlessly on my wrist. And I think the third part of the equation is you'll notice it's a matte finish on this grade 2 titanium. And it's very attractive, but even more than that, because it's this super lightweight, I think it weighs 45 grams titanium, it is just really easy and pleasant to wear. The dimensions on this watch are 38 millimeters for the case, 47 millimeters lug to lug, 20 millimeters going across for the band, and the thickness on it is 11.7, I believe. Now you'll notice that the crystal is a box sapphire, and what that does is it creates a little greater room for the hands and certain raised elements about the watch, so it really adds to that 3D quality. And another thing that is very subtle but is pretty cool about it is there are 6 facets that are curved into the bezel itself so that it adds a layer of dimension and cuts down on the glare. Now, on the dial, some of the things that I really like about this, first off, I love that color. I love the sunburst sort of quality and how the sort of moody, darker blues fade to gray as they go farther out. I think the light blue on the second hand is a really nice touch. But some of the other things that I think are really well done are that, it's called the sector, but you'll notice how it's seemingly broken down into sectors. Like there's a 24-hour inner ring over here, and that is certainly a very nice touch. Because it's a sandwich dial and it looks like the lume was poured in to the numbers, it has a really nice glow in the dark, which you can see from the picture. And it just, again, adds to that 3D quality and sense of depth that exists about the watch. But most of all, I think there is just such a well-designed layout and sense of space on this, and nothing is wasted. And the fact that they could do all this in a 38 millimeter case, I think is a real testament to how well thought out this field watch is. And I think they really did a wonderful job. The movement on it is the NH38, and it has a 41-hour power reserve. It's accurate to plus or minus 10 seconds a day. So really, it's this really modern take on a field watch that's meant for the outdoors. And it comes in 2 other colors, shale and sequoia, which is like a black and green. But I really think it's this marina color that stands out the most. And I'm going to bring it closer just so you could see there is also a crosshair in the center. And part of the appeal of that crosshair is it draws your eyes directly into the center of the watch, but as you angle it away, the crosshair kind of fades away and you don't see it as much. So it is there to draw you in when you're looking at it head on, but doesn't call attention to itself from different angles. And similarly, when you hold the watch at different angles, the colors look a little different. And I think that's a really cool quality too. They've just done a great job designing the layout on this dial, and I take my hat off to Nodus. Now, of course, the big question is why 127 hours, which is a story about a man being trapped in the desert for, as you might imagine, 127 hours. In this case, although the watch is this really beautiful shade of blue, the more I wore it, the more this blue began to feel like it was evoking a sense of sky. Now, for those who don't know the movie 127 Hours, it's starring James Franco and directed by Danny Boyle. And it is a really amazing movie about a guy who has this very epic sense of adventure based on a true story, who goes on this outing to the Utah desert and is having this really amazing day when he has this terrible accident. And in this accident, he falls down a crevasse and knocks a boulder loose, and the boulder ends up trapping his arm, and he is trapped inside this cavern situation, and he has no way of getting out, no way of moving this boulder. There has never been a more dire situation than this guy trapped in this crevasse where no one is going to find him, no one can hear his scream, there is no cell connection, and what he does to survive is really epic. And the story of how he got there and the steps that he takes each day to try and find ways to stay alive and to get out are so well thought out. And what's really pretty masterful about this is the way it shows the sky is this sort of candy blue at the beginning where everything is wonderful. But as the day wears on, kind of like this color, it becomes a little more dark and it becomes a little more ominous. And this sort of quality and the way they shoot it, especially using split screens, and the farther it gets into the film, the more they use handhelds to add to that sense of claustrophobia that this character is feeling. And so everything about the watch itself is about being the right piece of equipment to get you through. And so much of the story is about having the right piece of equipment, even down to his watch with it, which I think was called a Sun 2 Vector. I think that's it. And so much about it is having this right piece of equipment for everything that he's doing. And from the beginning of the film, they set up that he is so careful about everything he takes, but he makes one wrong choice. And that one wrong choice decides what happens to him throughout the course of being trapped in this cavern. And as he's trapped there, and he's thinking about how the universe had to come together to create this perfect moment of torture, is just really so wonderfully done. And I loved seeing his character slowly disintegrate and lose hope until he finally takes the step that he needs to do to be able to get out of this situation and find hope again and survive. So there's so much about this story that I liked. It is beautifully shot. It is wonderfully thought out. It is probably James Franco's best performance, and I know some people are not watching James Franco, but I have to say this movie is well worth watching, and probably, I think, Danny Boyle's best movie as well. So this is a terrific watch. It's an amazing movie, and again, I thank you for joining the Bezel and the Big Picture. It's a joy doing this, and if you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them, and thanks for stopping by. Take care.